With the new year, we all know those New Year's resolutions, and we also always hear some type of forecast of any variety for what's coming in the new year. So now we're in 2026, and we are going to forecast the upcoming real estate market right here in New Jersey. We're going to cover 3 items that are going to determine what is going to happen in the real estate market for this year. So join me for a conversation on what's coming, who wins, and who should start packing now. Welcome back to New Jersey Living. My name is Corey Jones, and I'm a licensed real estate agent here in New Jersey. And in my role, I help hundreds of people just like you to both buy, sell, and in some cases rent real estate here in the Garden State. A reminder, our episodes are simulcast on podcast platforms. So whatever your favorite podcast platform is, you can find New Jersey Living, the podcast, listen in on the same content. At a cursory glance in 2025, nationwide saw more of a pullback. Some markets are basically retracting. New Jersey market, as you watched some of my episodes before, you know that our market definitely has softened. If you've seen some of my recent episodes, there are definitely markets that are very buyer friendly right now. By and large, we're still a seller's market in New Jersey, make no mistake. However, there is more leverage that buyers have in many markets. With that said, what we've seen in New Jersey is a decline in units sold. So what that means is that there's been a retraction, not in prices. Prices are not dropping, just to be clear, but the appreciation of prices from year to year that has begun to level out in New Jersey, as well as list price to sell price ratio, how much price difference there is between where a property sold compared to where it was listed. That percentage has shrank also, but we want to kind of get an idea of what does 26 look like, and there are 3 factors that are going to impact this in a significant way. So let's go ahead and jump into those with number 1, which we may have heard some things about. Our news coverage covers any variety of things, especially in the realm of politics, but there's one particular conversation that is something that really has bipartisan support that can make the difference in your pocket, both as a seller and a buyer. This item that we're starting with relates to taxes, and it's not a part of the recent tax legislation, but it's a part of a conversation that happened with the Trump administration coming in 2024. So when we're looking at one of those relatively few items where we find that there's really some type of bipartisan support for is with the capital gains exclusion as it pertains to housing that is your primary residence. So right now, if you are an owner of a home and if you are a married couple selling a home, the exclusion, capital gains tax exclusion that is at $500,000. Now, when you think about $500,000, that's not a large sale price for a home at all in New Jersey. I'm sure that varies depending on what state you're in, right? New Jersey is going to be different from West Virginia, from Kansas, from Utah, all right, from New Mexico, all right, even Texas, all right? So there's going to be different median price points everywhere. New Jersey is definitely a high housing cost state, so we're not by any means on par with California, but we are a state that is really already right around that median of 500. So what that basically means is that if you were to sell your home today as a married couple and that property sells above $500,000, then you are going to have to deal with capital gains tax for whatever profit you received on your property. All right. Now, the specifics, I'm not a tax guy, so we have some people who have either experienced it or who have expertise in that area. By all means, drop in some comments. All right. Share your experience, share some specifics here on that topic, but you're going to pay tax on that. The exclusion is basically removing the capital gains if your property was to sell below 500. And that's for a married couple. So if you are single, you're an individual and you are doing the same, it is 250. In Jersey, that's in some markets, and I mean some markets, that's a condo. So when we're talking about the capital gains exclusion being increased, we're talking about the proposal that it be doubled from 500 to 1 million for a married couple, from 250 to 500 for an individual. And where does that factor in, or how does that factor into the housing market for 2026? Now, just before I jump into that, I will say that there are arguments that the capital gains exclusion increase will not have an impact on housing because people aren't going to sell their homes. They're not selling their homes because of a tax scenario. They're choosing not to sell their homes because of confidence. Well, I would argue this to that argument is that what gives people confidence is money in their pocket, having bandwidth to do the things that they want to do. So if I'm a homeowner and I know that my $800,000 sale is now going to be exempt from capital gains, I have a different thought process than if I knew I was going to end up getting taxed on that money. Would it be the sole or maybe even the primary factor that drives my decision? Perhaps not. But does it matter? I would argue yes. So how that translates in New Jersey is, and we're going to see some examples, what that looks like if you are an owner of a home, married couple, up to $1 million that you could say, hey, you know what? Ordinarily, I would not have sold, but I think I will consider selling. And what does that look like in different markets throughout the state? North Jersey, down the shore, South Jersey, all right, Central Jersey. We're going to take a look at a few examples of those. So before we jump into some of these recent sales that fall into these categories so you can see how that translates in different markets, the argument for how this can impact the housing market is we are short on inventory right now. A lot of people who are boomers, and the majority of property right now, the majority of real estate, when we talk about residential real estate, is being held by the boomer generation, right? For obvious reasons. They have the greatest amount of wealth. They've been around for the longest amount of time. They were buying in a different economy when they bought 30, 40, maybe 40 plus years ago. Okay, so these are situations where you have ultimately like a backlog, if you want to think about it that way, of real estate inventory that many people are retiring, relocating, deciding to move off of because they've owned it, moved on, but still chose to rent it. So you have all these scenarios involving a lot of times people who have held property that has value well above $500,000 that if they know they can sell that property tax-free because it doesn't necessarily exceed $1 million, then they will give serious thought and consideration to putting on market. So will it result in a mass boom of inventory? Perhaps not, but an increase of inventory, I would say very much so, yes. So buyer, what does that mean for you? That's where we have the segue. So for a seller, they're looking at the tax incentive, the tax break of selling and moving off. For you as a buyer, what does that mean? How does this potential legal change in terms of tax code favor your situation? It gives more selection. It creates more inventory. More inventory, more selection is good for buyers because in supply and demand, the less the supply, the greater the demand, and who bears that burden is going to be the buyer. With more options on the market, you have more leverage, you have more opportunity in many cases. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be in a bidding situation, especially in some of these high demand communities, which we've covered up on previous episodes. But you are going to have more options in front of you to consider compared to what we've seen over the past several years. Let's take a look at what this would look like for some of the sales that fell in that $500 to $1 million range, what that looks like in various locations and townships in New Jersey. First stop, Fanwood. Fanwood, this is a sale, Coldwell Banker on this one, 18% above list price, 8 days on market, 825, 3-bed, 2-bath, and Fanwood. Coldwell Banker, good old Frank Isolde. In West Orange, we see a 800,000, 4-bed, 3-bath, and we see 6% above list price, 19 days on market. In Bergen County, we have Demarest. This is a property sold, 775, 3% above list price, and 13 days on market. Working our way down towards the shore area in Monmouth County, we have Middletown, and this is a property 599. Looks like it went at list price. All right, 38 days on market, 599. As we go further down the shore, we are in Brick with 251 Huppert, 455. This went 4% below list price, 27 days on market. Look in South Jersey, Camden County and Cherry Hill. We have 9 Maplebrook. This is 512, 2% above list price, 32 days on market. Mercer County, still in South Jersey, we have 16 Tartan Court, 450, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, almost 2,000 square feet. This is 3% below list price, 22 days on market. For Burlington County, we're in Cinnaminson, and I believe we may have featured this particular property on another South Jersey episode, but 430, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 704 Endicott Ave. And it looks as though it went at list price, 10 days on market. In Somerville, for Somerset County, we have a 509 sale on 224 East Cliff Street, 17 days on market, 3-bed, 3-bath home. And for Morris County, we are in Morristown, $840,000 sale, 143 Hillcrest Ave, 4-bed, 2-bath, went 5% above list price, 16 days on market. So whether you are buyer or seller, you can see from that just cursory glance of markets throughout the state, north, central, south shore, what type of property you're looking at that an owner and potential buyer are going to see more of in the 2026 market, should there be some type of incentive, if you will, right? It's really an incentive on opening up the marketplace with sellers receiving basically more of their money, right? More of their money on properties that fit within a certain price parameter, of course, and then buyers having greater opportunity. Because let's be honest, most Jersey buyers are not, as a first-time buyer, looking to buy above $1 million. Most are not. Most are purchasing somewhere. If it's a single family home, more often than not, on the lower side is going to be in that kind of 400 range. It varies a little bit down the shore in South Jersey, but once you get central and north, it's definitely going to creep more to like 500 to 700. But you get the point that there's going to be a lot of opportunity should sellers in that range up to 1 million begin saying, okay, you know what? I'll sell now if I've got an opportunity to keep several thousand in my pocket and not have to give to the government. And buyers, it gives you more inventory to select from. So if you're a homeowner now, would you sell if this legislation passes? Definitely drop your comment right here. I would love to hear from you what your take is. And for buyers, would you be a bit more encouraged if you put a pause, but you had more inventory available to you right now? Would that be something to kind of urge you back into the market? Or if you're already in the market, would it encourage you? I would think it's a no-brainer, yes, but drop your comments here. Love to hear from the community. So as you're commenting, and before we jump into the next two factors that are going to impact the 2026 forecast, I have a few value adds for both homeowners and for those who are in the market as a buyer. Homeowners, I'm actually going to start with you first. I normally do buyers first, but for homeowners, we have this QR code for you. If you need to find out, you should want to find out the current market value of your home. Use this QR code. We can get a complimentary CMA, no strings attached, no expectations, just a courtesy that we provide to those in the community that want to know what the current market value of your house, where it lands right now. Another QR code is for those who would entertain or just, again, cash curious, as I call it. What would an investor offer me today for my property? 2 to 3 week closing. No strings attached, just buy it as is, right? We have a network of investors that will provide that to you. And just understand that in terms of expectations of pricing, it is a lot different for investors who make cash offers than it is on the marketplace. Two different kind of motivations and ultimately profit margin for you as a seller. For buyers who are currently in the market, we have a QR code for you. This is an overview of the purchase process. Feel free to reach out to me and my team. You see my contact information right here, and it also is in the description. Should you need any help or any assistance, me and my team would be happy to assist. Also for buyers who are coming in from a different region or maybe even internationally from out of the country, we have a QR code for you just with insights to learn a little bit more about the Garden State. Factor number 2 is one that every buyer is paying attention to on a regular basis, and that is interest rates. There are some economists who are projecting rates potentially drifting down in the mid 5% range for 2026. Already, because I had a recent transaction where buyers with points ended up at 5.9, right? 5.9 for their new purchase we just closed a little over a week ago. All right, so that is something that's already available. Definitely reach out to me if you're just curious or trying to get insights on where rates are. And believe me, when you see a lot of different marketing advertisements and rates that are thrown out there to attract your attention, you have to pay attention to the fine details. The best rates out there are definitely specific to one very, very well qualified buyers. And we're talking those who may have a credit score of like 780 plus, putting 20% down. And often, not all, but in many cases, it's maybe paying half a point, 3/4 of a point, or a full point to get that rate that's like, oh, wow, that rate is out there like that. It doesn't apply to everyone, but it's enough to attract your attention. So certainly, again, reach out to me and my team. My finance team would be happy to give you some insights specifically on where market rates are right now, more specific to your situation, right? Not just a flash, fantastic looking rate, but does that apply for your given situation? Because of course, your credit score, your income, your debt to income ratio, all those things factor in as well. And those best rates are the most ideal scenario. But with all that said, rates are still gravitating down. So we early at one point in the year, we were definitely in the low seven, up to, man, some cases up to mid-7 kind of range. Right now, we are comfortably low to mid-6. In some very exceptional cases, you can absolutely be in the 5s as well. Now, that's trending in a certain direction that's down. And once we are, for I would say your typical scenario, in the high 5s even, that's going to be a shift in the market. It's going to draw more buyers to the market. Closer to we are to the average being under 6, 100%, that's going to draw many more buyers to the market. Is that good news for a buyer? It's going to depend on inventory. And that's why we're trying to link all these 3 items together. So obviously inventory, which we're expecting if there is a change in that capital gains exclusion, that there'll be more inventory, right? This piece right here in terms of interest rates is going to drive more activity either way, even without that added inventory. But as a buyer, you're hoping for more inventory so that you don't have to compete again with all these other buyers that are coming to the market because of attractive rates. For those who are still waiting around for that interest rate to be at a certain level, just remind yourself that we will not get back down to the 3s the way we saw in COVID. Those days are gone. And I saw a very interesting article recently about if a buyer gave an example of someone from the 70s where I think the rate at that particular year was maybe about 7 or 8%. And it just gave an example of that person saying, I'm going to wait till the rates go down. And the rates continue to go up and not back down to like 20 years later, right? So in the meantime, if you had just bought a property, that property would have appreciated over that time. The point is that even in a higher rate environment or a not ideal rate environment, that's really not a reason to not buy. It's not. Your property is absolutely going to appreciate over time, and you can always refinance. You're not married to that rate. You're married to the property as long as you own it, but you're not married to your interest rate. Definitely don't hinge your entire decision on, do I enter the market? Do I engage because of rates? Not really, unless there's something that is going to be really specific to your situation, which we can have that conversation again. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to just share my insights if you just want to have a conversation. Now, the first 2 factors we were talking about are very much national. It's not specific to New Jersey. Interest rates, as well as the potential doubling of the capital gains exclusion, that would be national. Item number 3 that's going to be part of the 2026 forecast in New Jersey are the upcoming developments that are impacting specific markets. So with that said, if you've seen my episodes, you know I've covered these, 2 of them pretty extensively. One of them I'm going to start with is the Bayfront project in Jersey City. This is something that is really starting to get some traction now. I have clients who are just in the process of about to close on their sale in Jersey City in the Society Hill development. And the HOA just gave an announcement recently, right, about a development with the initial phase of the Bayfront project. So it is coming, right? So this is something that is going to drive both business and housing activity in that general area. All right. That Hudson County area is definitely going to have an impact. And really just a few miles away from Bayfront is going to be another development. And this one is not so much housing and, with some retail and parks and things like that. This is specific to business, and that business is film production business. And New Jersey is becoming rapidly the film production hub on the East Coast. That has been, if I had to guess, and this is something I have not researched, so if I'm wrong, definitely reach out, let me know. But I've seen so much come out of the state of Georgia over the past 10 years or so, that Georgia has been the place for a lot of film production on the East Coast of the United States. That is definitely going to shift to New Jersey in a significant way. How much, I really don't know, but it's definitely going to shift. We have Studio 1888 is setting up basically in Bayonne, New Jersey, very southern tip of the peninsula of the Hudson, right? Hudson County. That is coming, and this is absolutely going to have impact on the real estate market in that general Bayonne and Jersey City area. And that studio really is going to likely pale in comparison to Netflix setting up shop in Fort Monmouth, Eatontown area of Monmouth County. Both of these projects are not opening tomorrow, all right? Likewise with the Bayfront project, we're talking about years in process, but the individuals and companies and investors that are looking to be on the front end of things are really doing that now. Already in Jersey City, in that west side area of the city, there's already been development for years now, right? And it's still continuing, okay? So we're gonna see much of that similar pattern in that Bayonne area. Bergen Point specifically is the neighborhood that's already a higher demand area of Bayonne. Absolutely, there's gonna be a critical area to focus on if you are looking at, hey, look, do I pick up a multifamily? Do I look at some rental prospects? Because there is going to be, just because there's going to be a development of an industry basically right there, just a few blocks away in the case of Bergen Point, and a few miles away if you're in Jersey City or in Bayonne, where you're going to have people that need housing. And likewise for the Eatontown area and that general surrounding area of Monmouth County. So we're talking Tenton Falls, we're talking Shrewsbury, Long Branch, those areas along near the shore, right there in Monmouth. And what I love about Monmouth is that you're easy to a shore location, to a beach, and you're really not that far out from being back up in North Jersey. You hop on Garden State and you're going to be right in the mix of things with about a 30 to 45 minute drive, right? So this is something that is going to be a major impact within that general region of the state. So if you're thinking about buying or selling in 2026, there is definitely a game plan and strategy for you depending on what part of the state, what your general time frame is. Are we talking 3 months? Are we talking 12? Are we talking 18? Whatever your situation is, I have a playbook, a strategy playbook that I customize for my clients. So definitely reach out. You don't have to be a client of mine right now, but if you want a playbook for your situation, your current circumstance, reach out to me. If you are not working with an agent already, I'm not treading on ground where someone already has an agent. This is just for those who are curious, who are exploring, or who are looking to work with me and my team directly. Have a playbook to know exactly what you need to look for, what actions you need to prepare for and take right now for the eventual sale or purchase of your new home. I will be glad to help. And again, that is courtesy. That is no obligation, no requirements, no cost to you. But be sure to not pass up an opportunity to have a playbook that's unique to your situation. And if a playbook interests you, here is a QR code. Scan here, give me an indication whether you're looking to buy or sell, and I will reach out from there to get a few additional details to lay out that custom playbook for your strategy as we enter 2026. I'd like to thank everyone for joining once again. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click like, subscribe, and notification bell. We have more content that's coming out. We have more of our investor series that's coming out for those that are investment or investor oriented. And we also are going to jump back into some specific town locations. No matter what we do, we're always going to cover current trends and action in the marketplace in New Jersey so that you can stay informed as a homeowner or a prospective buyer. So as I always say, stay safe and stay tuned to New Jersey Living.